everyone, and welcome back to another edition of CMO Peer Talks, the podcast and show that takes you inside the minds of modern marketing leaders in the franchise space. With us today, we have Heather McLeod from Authority Brands. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Of course. So, if you could introduce yourself and a little bit about what drove you into the franchise space, I think that'd be an interesting place to start.
Yeah, absolutely. So, my name is Heather McLeod. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Authority Brands, and I have been in franchising for about 14 years now.
God, amazing.
So I've been with Authority Brands for almost 8 years. I started, though, before that at Neighborly, back when they were the Dwyer Group. So my career has been all home service franchising, and then I left there, went to the Cleaning Authority, which was like the first brand that turned into the Authority Brands platform. And in the last 7.5 years or so, we've added 11 more home service brands. So now we have 12 total, about 1,200 franchisees.
Let's take a moment to phrase that. 1,200 franchisees.
Yes, it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot across 12 brands. So there's always something exciting happening. There's always a project. And the team, when I first got there, there were 2 of us.
Oh, wow.
And now I manage a team of about 65 marketers.
That's amazing. I think that's the biggest group, team to date.
Yeah.
If you wouldn't mind, obviously no trade secrets need to be spilled. We get that.
Sure.
We get that. But if you could tell us a little bit about how your marketing department is structured, I think that'd be really interesting.
So we structure basically into a couple of different pillars, if you will. So I have a shared services creative team.
Okay.
So there's a creative director, graphic designers, videographer that anyone else in the department can utilize at any point.
Right.
There is the consumer marketing team. So those are the brand specific, like strategic marketers.
Yeah.
So each of our brands has dedicated brand marketing resources. So they're not working across brands. They're 100% focused to their brand. Likewise, there's also a similar team that mirrors them on communications. So they handle social media, PR, content, our blogs, all of that. There's also our corporate store team. So we actually own about 30 units as a company that we use as like a test kitchen, basically, for things we're doing. So there's a team that's dedicated to running their marketing. I have a VP of marketing operations who oversees analytics, tracking, KPIs, digital, all of that. And then we also have a call center team and function that rolls up into marketing, as well as there's a couple other business units within the organization that have marketing support staff, and including Fran Dev, and those all live within marketing as well. So it's a big group.
It's a big
sure.
group. That's amazing to have such big resources at your fingertips, especially per brand and completely, for each need, digital and so on.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great for the brands that are slightly on the smaller side because they kind of get the benefit, kind of like the way an ad fund functions, right? Where like the bigger owners are contributing in at a higher dollar amount. It might be an equal percentage based on size.
Right.
It's the same kind of thing on some of our shared services where, some of the brands that are smaller might not have been able to afford a full-time graphic designer, but they get a piece of a full-time graphic designer in the shared services team, so they get kind of the cost savings that comes with bringing some of that in-house without having to carry the cost of like a full resource themselves.
That's a really great point, and I'm actually really excited to learn more from you because you have the 10,000-foot view perspective across so many brands. So how do you come up with a strategy, if we're talking about marketing as a whole, when you're thinking of 11 brands? How does that work for you?
Yeah, so across the brands, it's kind of 2 different approaches, right? So there's kind of the bottom-up drivers. So that's things like franchisees raising to us, hey, this is something that's important to the brand. It's brand operations and knowing what they're doing and what their focus is. And that brand level marketing strategist is really the one who kind of takes all of those inputs and kind of interprets it and builds a plan based on that. But then kind of top down, there are certain objectives and kind of themes, if you will, every year that are really important for us as a team based on just kind of the status of where our marketing systems are. So like, for example, this past year, the big push was we need to have better online booking experiences.
Right, yeah.
So some of the brands had the ability to schedule and book online, some didn't, and so it's really about, okay, the ones who do, let's like take a deep dive. Is it really performing the way it could? How do we improve conversion? How could this be a better user experience? For the ones who don't, it's okay, how do we map a path to go from where we are today to having someone able to fully complete the process online? So how that all kind of folds in just depends on kind of the age of the brand, their budget, other things that are on the table. But it's definitely a combination of both. And I think being aware of that is really critical because the brands don't want, me and team coming in to say like, this is what you have to do right now and this is what we're doing. It really has to be a collaboration. And so a really big focus for us is just, we have a centralized marketing team and all the marketers report into my unit basically instead of into the brand president or the brand leader. But with that kind of comes the responsibility that they have to be in lockstep partnership with brand operations. Like it doesn't work if they're not.
Right.
So we really try to be incredibly collaborative about what we're doing, and really that's why those brand strategy leaders are so important.
I absolutely believe that. You also mentioned that you have like a dedicated data.
Yeah, absolutely.
So can you talk to me a little bit about what are you, and you don't, again, no trade secrets need to be spilled, but
don't worry, I won't give anything away.
Exactly.
It's safe.
But if you could share like what success looks like to you, what are the insights that you're tracking, what are the metrics that you're tracking across the brands and across the Z's as well?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that's probably the most commonly overlooked metric or kind of area by both marketing and operations often is what's happening on a phone call. So like marketing is focused normally on like making the phone ring, generating leads, a count of leads, and then on the back end, a count of new customers. Operations is normally focused on that count of new customers, revenue, all of the different metrics kind of related to that, right? But that space in between kind of becomes like a little bit of a no man's land. Maybe operations has someone who kind of keeps their eye on call center, how franchisees answer the phone. Maybe there's like something in the ops manual that says you have to have the phone answered by a live person. But we went through the process of taking that function into the marketing team to say, hey, we're going to own this because if we're making the phone ring, but we're responsible for top line revenue, that space in between.
What is happening there?
Like, we'll take it. We'll take it. So, with one of the brands, we just went through the process of moving all their phone lines onto the system that we use for call tracking that involves dispositioning. So regardless of who answers the phone, we know what happened. Did it get booked? Did it not get booked? And, we found that there was a shocking number of calls that weren't getting answered.
Oh, wow.
Right? So it's like insights like that you wouldn't have otherwise, that we could say like, hey, here's this thing. We need to get ops on the phone. We need to get on the phone and say, like, how do we best propose a solution to make this easier, better for the owners? Is there a resource we could use? Should we offer a call center solution? Like, we've got a lot of tools in the toolbox, but sometimes it's just the identification of the problem that's the piece that, and sometimes you don't even know you have a problem.
Right.
So that's probably the best one recently of just finding something and digging a little bit.
I mean, that's why data is so valuable because it shows you what's working, what's not, and as you said, you can discover a problem, you can discover a great formula, and then scale that across your brand.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you also, I know there's so much in your tenure, as you described, 8 years in the company, 14 years in the industry. When you're thinking of like a digital marketing plan for a franchisee and that experience for them, how do you go about like giving them the reins? Do you enable them to localize? Do you have a firm brand guide that's it? Or can you share a little bit about that, the creativity?
Yeah, so we do things a little bit different, probably than most. So 12 brands. 7 of the brands are on corporately executed local marketing programs. Meaning we centralize it. They're required to spend money. They have choice involved, but we actually do their marketing. So they're not like hiring vendors off a list. They're not making a lot of those selections. They're selecting creative. they can customize some messaging, but we're running, tracking, and reporting on marketing and marketing performance.
Okay.
Which is very different than...
Do you customize a little bit of that for...
Yeah, of course, absolutely. So like all of the digital is customized. Different ads will run in different markets based on performance. So if we see in one market, you know, a PPC ad might be doing really well. If it's not doing so well in another market, you could have totally different mixes of what digital looks like, totally different approaches from a direct mail standpoint. Different strategies via social, but I think the big kicker, right, is the fact that my team gets to do marketing and not coach marketing.
That's
so they're actually running it, right? So it's run with a level of attention and detail that honestly is a little tricky for a franchisee. They have so much other stuff going on.
Running the business.
They're running the business, and they should honestly, in a market like this, they should be focused on retaining their employees and retaining their customers, right? So hiring and recruiting, I feel like is the big focus right now. So we just started to take one thing off of them by saying like, hey, we'll do your marketing for you. Most of them love that. It's what attracted them to our brands in the first place. So it works for us.
And you said 7 out of your portfolio are that. How are the other 4?
Yeah, the other are more traditional. So the other are much more like kind of local execution off of, you know, plans and guides that we put together for them. But in all honesty, those are our trade brands. So like plumbing, HVAC, electric, where consumer demand is so high that marketing really isn't as large of a percentage of their spend of revenue as it is in some other businesses, because there's just so few. I mean, honestly, there's so few people going into plumbing, HVAC, and electrical that there's just a demand for those services. So they're pretty self-sufficient on that front, with like the more kind of traditional franchise model of like, we're going to provide you all these resources, we're going to coach you, we're going to guide you, you have access to all of our corporate material that you can customize, you have access to local TV that you can run through our agency. It's a much more traditional style.
Okay, that's really great. And speaking on the brands that you interact with, not only in the what you're doing for them as a service, the brands that are doing them themselves, but the full scope of the marketing spectrum, how do you like energize and empower your Z's to feel that they have a skin in the game in the marketing sense of it?
Yeah, I think most of, you know, since so much of what we do is kind of doing it for them, really our focus isn't so much about getting them to feel like they've got like a voice in their marketing. They definitely do. It's really more focused around building trust and visibility into the data so that they can see how it's performing and they can trust that our team is doing a really great job on their behalf, so that it honestly, like I joke sometimes that we can be like the Maytag repairmen of marketing people. Like people don't call, they don't write, like, oh my gosh, we never really hear from certain people at certain brands. But that's a good thing, right? Because they have limited time. So really our focus is around kind of building that trust and making sure our franchisees feel like they know what's happening, that they're in the loop on how their money is being spent, that they see how it's performing, that the data, you know, mirrors what's happening in their business, giving them access to, you know, dashboards and reports that make it easy for them to digest, and then just let it roll from there.
I mean, that's the whole spiel right there. We need to, you know, have that on a loop.
There you go.
That's
just
fantastic.
Let it roll.
Yeah.
Just let it roll.
That's fantastic. Because you're in such a unique position across the brands and as the CMO of the whole company or the whole organization, I love to ask this question. It's a bit of a wild card, but I would love to hear from your perspective what you think the next big thing in franchise marketing is. Like, what is your attention looking towards?
Yeah, that's really interesting. So I kind of already maybe gave it away a little bit. So I think the next big thing is more funnel ownership by marketing. So not just what goes in the top. I mean, we talk all the time about the customer journey, but more of that really is in a lot of ways focused on kind of the experience once they become a customer. What does their journey look like? What do they, you know, what email do they get after they sign up? And do they get a notification that service, like their tech is on the way and all of that? Most of it is post sign up. I think really kind of the spot that is still missing a lot of attention that really could significantly change people's businesses.